In this video, I'm gonna show you my start to finish process on how I make these cinematic car videos. I will show how I cut my music to the beat, how to make a nice flow throughout the edit. I will show you how I color grade it, how I stabilize my shots to add a little bit of spice here and there, and I'm gonna show you my export settings. For this video, we used the Sony a7 IV, the Sony 2470 G Master Mark II. Although all the shots were filmed in 24mm, we used the Freewell CPL Plus Variable ND filter to fix our exposure and to cut the reflections on the car to be able to see through the windshields and to make the color of the car much nicer. If you want to edit along with me, you want to download the raw clips or the power grade, you can simply download all of these in the community. Just go to the classroom section in editing, and here under editing assets you can find everything. I always start with the music. That's the most important part, so you can match your clips to the music. Usually I just swipe through Instagram and I save some nice audios for later, and then I will just screen record it and drop it into my timeline here. But now, because it's for YouTube and we don't want like the copyright stuff, I just went to Epidemic Sound, I typed smooth jazz, I just scroll through some of them, and then I just download one and bring it into my timeline. So there we go. And let's say we're just gonna end it somewhere at second 15. Real smooth, right? So we can actually select all of them, and I recently learned that you can actually also put these ones in and Davinci will automatically filter them out, so that's really easy. Now we have all the clips here, and I'm gonna first scrub through them all and see which one I will be using for the edit and which one I will just delete. So here we have this nice medium shot, then we have a close-up shot, another medium shot, then we have like a more wide angle shot of the whole car, then we have a close-up shot, and this one can go away. So let's say we have 5 shots right now. You can always erase one or you can always add one later, however you feel like. But let's start with this. First, let's think about the order of the shots. Usually what I do is I like to make a variation of close, medium and wide shots, so we don't have 2 close-up shots next to each other and we don't have 2 wide shots next to each other, or at least I try to think about it in this way, and this will make the flow of the edit nicer. Also, don't put 2 shots of the same subject after each other. So don't put, for example, 2 times the wheel or the rim, or not twice the same sticker or steering wheel. Try to mix it up. Let's say we're gonna start with this one. This is a close-up one. Then we are going to, let's say, the wider one, maybe this one. We can of course delete the audio. Then from wide we will go maybe to a medium one from the steering wheel, and then let's do a close-up, and then we have again a medium shot. So this is the rough order. You can always switch it up, but this is what I'm going for right now. I think this looks good for now. So now we're gonna trim the clips. For a faster editing workflow, I set a few custom keys. To cut a clip, I hit 1. To trim the part until the playhead, so this part, I set it to 2. To trim the part after the playhead, so this part I set to 3. And to ripple delete something, which can be a clip or an empty space, I set it to 4. So now I'm gonna select this one and hit 2, and this looks decent. So I'm already going to select all the clips and put them in 50% speed, so they are now in slow motion. I like to use slow motion because it makes the shots smoother, because when you set it to 50% speed, there's 50% less shake because it's just 50% slower. So this looks good. Now we're gonna trim it to the beat. Let's start here. We can always trim it up later. Okay, then we're going to do the same for this shot. So I would like to have the wide shot from this part. Usually I take my shots earlier than I have planned, and I stop recording later than I actually have planned. And this way you always have some wiggle room in the editing room, because out of experience I know that sometimes you just want that second earlier or that second later, which then you didn't film. Don't cry in the editing room, record a little bit longer and earlier. Now of course we have to stretch it out because it's in 50%, but this looks nice. This shot looks good. I'm gonna trim it here. Let's now match it to the music. So I just listen to the music and I just check the waveforms to see where it drops or where the pop is. So here's actually a little bit too late. And usually I put it then one frame even further. There you go, it's much better. And then we're gonna trim it to the end, pressing 3. Then let's move over to this one. So here we are going from right to left, going closer to the car. So what I like to do then with the next shot, if possible, is I like to also flow from right to left. So we can match the directions, which give you a nicer flow in your edit. So now I'm going. So yeah, one of my lights just popped apparently. Let's find a nice shot. And what would be cool is that we kind of reveal the steering wheel. This actually looks nice. Let's say somewhere until here, so we can hit 2. But here I'm going to reverse the clip, so we are in the same direction and the flow will be much better. Sometimes it's not always possible because people will walk reverse or something weird might happen in the background. But for me, actually, I don't worry about it. The edit looks good. If the flow is good, that's much more important. So let's say we cut it here and we go to the next one. So we go from medium to more sort of close-up shot. This part looks much better. Let's put it right there. Now don't worry about the composition yet. We are going to zoom in a little bit here and there and clean up the composition. So that's something for later. Now is first the rough cut. So we will zoom in somewhere here probably. Let's say we trim it right there on the music and then we come in with our last shot. So we're gonna start it somewhere here. And then if we select this one, we hit 4, we can ripple delete it. So this is our rough cut. No worries, it's not perfect yet. Let's start with the color grading, then we will do the stabilization, and at the end we will do the reframing. So for the color grading, I'm just gonna start with the hero shot, let's call it. The hero shot is the shot where you kind of see everything in frame, and we work from there. By the way, before we dive into the color grading, I do want to invite you to our private community for automotive videographers. It's just a group of like-minded people where you can share the same interest for car videography. And if you're stuck with color grading, editing, maybe you have questions for camera gear, camera settings, whatsoever, you can drop there a message and we are happy to help you out. It's completely for free for 7 days, so why not just give it a try and hop in. We see you inside. I go to the color page and here I have my power grade, which you can actually download in the community. Just go to the classroom, go to editing, and in the editing assets you can find here the Davinci power grade. You can simply drag the power grade in your power grade window and then you can drag it into the notes section in your color grading tab. Don't worry, it looks odd, but that's normal. Let me explain you what's happening here. So I'm going to turn off some notes by clicking on the number, and I will tell you exactly why. This note, and this note, they go 3 together. Here in the color space transform, I put my own settings from the camera, so which is Sony S-Gamma 3 Cine actually, S-Log 3, and then output ARRI White Gamma 3 and ARRI Log C3. That's it for this node. Then the saturation, I have bumped the red outputs to 2, green outputs to 2, blue outputs to 2, and then here the LUT is the D65. These 3 nodes go together, and then here I desaturated the blacks to make the blacks nicer. Instead of being bluish, they become more black. So you can just keep these ones untouched, and the sharpening, you can also leave it untouched. I set it to 0.47 to get that extra sharpness back into your image. And the denoiser, that's for at the completely end of our editing process, because when we turn it on, it's pretty taxing on the system and it will make our playback slower. So then we're going to start with the white balance, exposure and S-curve. Usually I just like to start with the S-curve here, which is just a simple S-curve right here. You can always play a little bit around with these dots. But this will give you already some extra punch into your image without making it look too flat or overly saturated. So now let's hop over to the white balance node. So I'm gonna turn it on. You will see, of course, it's way too blue. We shot this shot at 6500 kelvins. It was sunny. If you want your image to look warmer, you can always drag this Kelvin up, but for me 6500 is good. Or if you want it colder, you can always drag it down. For now, I'm gonna keep it at 6500. Then we hop over to the exposure node, and then I just look at my image and see what I want to change. But for now, I'm gonna keep it like this because I have here my vignette, which I like to turn on first, because what it will do, it will darken the outside of the image, drawing more attention towards the car. So let's see how this looks. I already like it, but it's a little bit too strong. So then I'm going to the window and I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, so it's a little bit less aggressive. Okay, that kind of looks better for me personally. Now let's get rid of these aggressive highlights here. So I'm gonna slightly lower the highlights here to about -50. For me personally, that already looks good. When I have shots on the grass, like here, I usually like to slightly change the color of the grass into a less aggressive green, and I usually also desaturate it a little bit, and that's in this node. Actually, this node should be called grass or greens. What I did here, let me just reset it and start from scratch. We go into this step, and then we're gonna go to the hue versus hue, which will change the color of certain colors. Actually, we select the green, and then I'm gonna slightly lift the color here, so it goes from the greenish more to like an orangey green, let's call it. So maybe it's just a little bit too much now, so something like this is better. And then if you want to make it a little bit less saturated, you can also click the grass and slightly lower the saturation, so just a tiny little bit, and that will make the car pop out a little bit more, but maybe we can enhance it even a little bit. So let's reset this node. We go to the color slicer here, and then we go to the, yeah, this is blue actually, and then we can slightly higher these sliders. So as you can see, it will bring back some darkness, like some more saturation in a clean looking way. For me personally, this looks good. So off, on, brings back that nice dense color. Then we are going to the gradient, but for this shot I'm not going to use the gradient actually. Let's turn on the glow maybe for other shots where I will show you. And then the halation. How do I do the halation? It's actually very simple. I have the Dehancer Pro. This is a paid feature, by the way. If you want it, you can grab it. I will drop a link in the description. Disable everything except for the halation. That will give you that red outline in your highlights, giving you that more old school image. So for the denoiser, that's for later. So now our shot looks something like this. Also, the halation is kind of taxing on your system, so for the playback it will be slow, but we can fix that by just reducing our playback resolution. The image will look a little bit worse, but that's only for the playback. Now, to make it very simple, open the clips, then select all the other ones while holding Command 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hit the color graded one and apply grade. That's the starting point now for all our other shots. We can adjust from there. Now let's have a quick look on how it's looking right now. This one is too dark. Now we still have to adjust the color grades from all the other ones. Then we are going to stabilize some shots. We are going to reframe some shots, and we might add some dynamic zoom to give some extra dynamics to the shots. So what I usually do is I go to here and set it to selected clips, and then I'm gonna hit Command and hit this one. Then I'm gonna select this one, and then we can use this shot as a reference for our other shots. I usually do this pretty quickly. I just check what needs a quick fix. In this case, I would say bump up the lift maybe a little bit, something like this. Now let's move over to this one. Make sure to select this one, and I'm gonna slightly bring up the shadows, something like this. And we're going to do the same here, just slightly bring it up. And for me personally, that looks already good. Here you can see the glow very nicely. So on and off. It's just subtle. I prefer it subtle instead of just too much. Some people like to set the glow to like a golden glow. So something like this. Maybe we can also do it for the purpose of the video. But then of course we have to do it everywhere. Now let's see if I'm going to add the gradient somewhere. I might put it here. Smoothen it out a little bit. Here I'm going to skip it. Here I might want to turn it on, make it a little bit less aggressive. Here I don't think it's necessary. And then maybe here I will set it very subtle somewhere here. Now let's stabilize the clips and reframe and add dynamic zoom if necessary. Let's start with this one. So this shot is already pretty stable, but just to get like the micro jitters out of it, I usually go to stabilization, set it to translation, put the smooth somewhere in the middle and hit stabilize. You will see there is a small crop. Now it's smooth as hell. For this one, I'm gonna do the exact same because it already looks good. This one is not that perfect, to be honest, and let's try something here so we can lock onto the steering wheel so it tracks the steering wheel. So let's go for this to the Fusion page. What happened here? Shift Command Spacebar, planar tracker. Let's set it to translation and let's draw a mask over the logo here, and then we are going to hit set and then track backwards and forward, and let's set it to steady. You see the borders here, that's because of the stabilization while it's keeping the logo in the middle. We can easily get rid of this by zooming in just a little bit. We might want to do the same here, planar tracker. If you want to have like the stickers here in the middle, set translation backwards and forward. We're gonna hit steady. Let's see how it looks here. We have to zoom in a little bit to get rid of the borders. And we are going to also reframe here. So maybe it's nicely in the middle for this one. And then we end with this shot, kind of a revealing shot. And here I'm also just gonna use the basic stabilization function, which will take out most of the shake. And there we go. It's looking perfect. So now let's do the last reframing. Here it actually is already nice. Maybe we can do a small dynamic zoom out. So as you can see here, now it zooms out. Now for me personally, the zoom is a little bit too aggressive. I want it more subtle. So to change that, we can go to dynamic zoom. And if in case this pops up like in a weird small way, just change your playback resolution back to full. The green window is where you will start your shot, and the red window is where it will end. So in this case, it will zoom from here to here. And to make the zoom a little bit less aggressive, I'm gonna change the red box so it zooms in from here to here, a little bit less aggressive. And then we have something like this. We might want to add a small dynamic zoom here. We're going to swap it. And again, If you want to get some noise out of your image, you can just do so here with the denoiser node, which is actually just this one. And these are my basic settings if you want to make the denoise. So let's say we zoom in a little bit to see some noise, and you can kind of smoothen it out with these settings. And if you want to increase the settings to get out even more noise, you can simply play around with these settings, or you can try the spatial noise reduction to get it all out. You have to be careful to not overdo this, because then when you're filming people, for example, it will look very plasticky. Usually I just set it to somewhere 30-ish, and if necessary I dial in this one a little bit, but this one looks good actually. Be careful with the denoiser though, because if you overdo it, you will lose some of your details here. So as you can see, it will fade it out. Don't do this. Now for exporting, what I do, I hit I and then O on my timeline. Export YouTube video, let's call it, to get the crispiest possible results for social media. What I do personally, I just export in HD. I set this to 24,000, and advanced settings, I check force sizing and force debayer to highest quality. That's it. And like that, I post it to social media. If you want to see a complete breakdown of me editing and filming a cinematic car video, watch this video next.